Hey, I hope you guys are doing good today. We are going to be watching the Peach Melba video from Tasting History. This looks really good. The thumbnail looked really refreshing, very summery. I don't know what Peach Melba is, so I thought this would be I thought this would be a good one to do. If you do get a chance, I'd appreciate if you can leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch, and I will have Tasting History's video linked in my description below, so be sure to go and like his video, subscribe to him, all that good stuff. But all right, let's learn about some peach melba.
The chef of kings and the king of chefs. No, not him. Him.
Wait, I love Swedish Chef though. He's the best. Also, who is behind us? I have never seen that one. It's adorable though.
The chef of kings and the king of chefs. No, not him. Him. Georges Auguste Escoffier, one of the most influential figures in culinary history. And today we'll be making one of his most famous dishes, peach melba. Escoffier, the good and the bad. This time on Tasting History.
It sounds scandalous.
So this episode is in honor of my Patreon patrons, specifically the Marshals of the Spicery and the Deans of the Larder, who, every month, we have a bit of a virtual happy hour where we make a historical cocktail and then just kind of chat about the channel or whatever. And it's just cool because we're all having the same drink at the same time, but spread out all over the world. And as it turns out, Escoffier did
I actually love that. That's actually really cool. I love that. That's awesome.
it first. In 1912, he held the very first Dîner l'Épicure, where he coordinated 4,000 of the exact same meals being served all over Europe at the exact same time. Now, obviously, we don't do an entire meal, we just do one cocktail, but it's kind of in the same vein, so
Yeah.
Thank you, Patreon patrons. Now, I don't know exactly what was served at that very first Dîner l'Épicure, but it is possible that on the menu, there was Escoffier's own peach melba. Peach melba. Choose 6 tender and perfectly ripe peaches. The Montreuil peach, for example, is perfect for this dessert. Blanch the peaches for 2 seconds in boiling water, remove them immediately with a slotted spoon, and place them in iced water for a few seconds. Peel them and place them on a plate, sprinkle them with a little sugar, and refrigerate them. Prepare a liter of very creamy vanilla ice cream and a puree of 250 grams of very fresh ripe raspberries crushed through a fine sieve and mixed with 150 grams of powdered sugar.
This sounds delicious. This sounds like such a nice little dessert treat of some, I guess, like for summertime. This sounds absolutely delicious. I feel like I have to try this.
Refrigerate. To serve, fill a silver timbale with the vanilla ice cream, delicately place the peaches on top of the ice cream, and cover with the raspberry puree. Optionally, during the almond season, one can add a few slivers of fresh almonds on top, but never use dried almonds. A simple but lovely dessert for these waning dog days of summer, though I think by the time this actually airs, it won't be the dog days anymore, so cat days of summer. Anyway, for this recipe, what you'll need is 6 ripe peaches, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 cups or 250 grams of ripe raspberries, 1 1/3 cup or 150 grams of powdered sugar, and optional almond slivers. You'll also need 2 pints or 1 liter of vanilla ice cream, preferably in the French tradition, meaning with egg yolks. So first, prepare a pot of boiling water and a large bowl of ice water. Then, 1 or 2 at a time, set the peaches in the boiling water for just a few seconds, then plunge them into the ice water. Leave them there for about 10 seconds, and then set them on a plate. Once all 6 are blanched, go ahead and peel them. If you blanched them correctly and they were ripe, it should be very easy to remove the peel. Then set them on a plate and sprinkle with sugar. You want these on a single layer, so you might want to use a couple plates. Then put them in the refrigerator for 1 hour, covering them lightly so they don't brown too much. Then to make the raspberry sauce, just put the raspberries in a blender and puree. Then press through a fine sieve into a bowl. Then add in the powdered sugar just a bit at a time. It's best if you sift it in. I did not, but do as I say, not as I do. And whisk until fully incorporated.
Ooh.
Then set that in the refrigerator as well, and then take a break to learn a bit about the life of Escoffier.
That sauce looks so good.
Born in 1846, Georges Auguste Escoffier was almost destined to follow in his father's footsteps and become a blacksmith. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, he was a tiny person, and he actually later on in life had boots built with a special heel just so he would be tall enough to work at a normal counter in the kitchen. So, due to
I feel that. I feel you, man. I feel you. I bet being a blacksmith probably didn't work out the best for him if he was that short, but I feel you, man. I feel you.
with a special heel just so he would be tall enough to work at a normal counter in the kitchen. So due to his size, his father very quickly realized he was not going to make much of a blacksmith, and Georges wanted to be an artist, but that wasn't really in the cards, and so at the age of 13, he was sent to work at his uncle's restaurant in Nice.
I wonder if being an artist back then was like a taboo thing of like is that like where like starving artist kind of comes into play? You know, like it's not really like a necessarily great profession and probably really hard. Just I kind of feel like that's kind of like how it is today. Being an artist is really hard to do.
In his memoirs, Escoffier basically says that his uncle wasn't a very nice guy to him, made fun of his diminutive
Oh
stature a
no.
lot, and working at the restaurant was very, very hard as it was very difficult to work in kitchens at the time, and that actually was probably what inspired Escoffier to have a lifelong desire to make working in kitchens a more pleasurable and healthier experience.
Good for him. Good for him to try to turn it into a positive. I think that's admirable. I think that's good. Good on him for that. And I get that. I know I've been called lots of short names too. So I definitely feel that, you know, short stack, shorty, small fry. Yep. Definitely heard them all.
Desire to make working in kitchens a more pleasurable and healthier experience. But before he could help future restaurant workers, he had to become a famous chef himself, which all started when he got a job at 19 at the Petit Moulin Rouge in Paris. Though with just a few years on the job, in 1870 he was called up for military duty in the Franco-Prussian War. But rather than fighting, he was given the post of army chef, serving some of the higher-up field marshals of the French army. Unfortunately, one of those marshals surrendered, and so Escoffier spent the last 6 months of the war as a POW.
Oh
But even
man.
there, he was the chef de cuisine who cooked for all of the French officers at the camp. So post-military,
Well, I guess it doesn't seem like so bad, even though you're like a POW and kind of went through some stuff, you know, that probably wasn't ideal. Doesn't I guess this probably could have been like your best outcome for that, for sure. Doesn't seem too bad.
but even there, he was the chef de cuisine who cooked for all of the French officers at the camp. So post-military life, when he finally did return to Paris and Le Petit Moulin Rouge, he was made chef de cuisine, and he was able to start his own restaurant called Le Faisan d'Or, or the Golden Pheasant, in Cannes. And it was during this time that he met and married the poet Delphine Daffy. Now, there is a story that he actually won her hand in a game of billiards against her father. I hope
Oh my
that's a
gosh.
fictional story. It possibly could have come from a novel that was written years.
Well, it's just a good how I met your mother story, you know. It's fine. It's there are worse ways. There are worse ways, you know. There's definitely worse stories than that. So I would say this is fine.
It's a
Kind of
fictional
funny.
story. It possibly could have come from a novel that was written years later, but some people say that it is true, so who knows? But maybe he did have a penchant for gambling because they ended up moving to Monte Carlo, where he worked in the winter at one of the larger hotel casinos, and in the summer he would go to Lucerne and work at the Hôtel National. And that is where he became friends with an ambitious hotel manager named César Ritz. Yep, that Ritz. Now, they became one of the great partnerships in history. And in 1890, Richard Doyllicart, famous for producing the operettas of Gilbert and Sullivan, invited the duo to London to take control of his Savoy Hotel. And it was
God, I love all these buildings that they show. Oh, they're so pretty.
Gilbert and Sullivan invited the
Like this is gorgeous. What a gorgeous building. I love seeing pictures like this.
duo to London to take control of his Savoy Hotel. And it was there that his military training must have come flooding back as he developed La Brigade de Cuisine, or the Kitchen Brigade. See, before Escoffier, many restaurant kitchens were run in a way where each cook was put in charge of a specific dish, and then all of those dishes would come together to create the meal. But Escoffier's Kitchen Brigade had it so that each cook was in charge of a different task, and all of those different tasks would come together to create each individual dish.
That's like how they do stuff now. So he like totally reinvented like the kitchen mechanics and how kitchens are run. That's cool. I had no idea. I mean like I figured it probably came from someone, you know. But I had no idea it was him. That's actually pretty awesome.
All of those different tasks would come together to create each individual dish, almost like the assembly line of Henry Ford, but 20 years earlier and with food. So at the top you had the chef de cuisine, or what's now known as the head chef. He was supported by the sous chef, who in pretty much every restaurant that I ever worked at was the most overworked person in the kitchen.
Oh gosh.
Under them is an army of cooks, each with their specific job.
This is what I mean, I figured that it's pretty intense, but, like, when you see it like this is crazy. This is insane. I mean, I know I feel like chefs in some of these restaurants and, like, bigger restaurants and stuff, they seem like they definitely put in a lot of hours and definitely, work really, really hard, and, it is crazy, but I guess, if you have everybody doing a job here, stuff probably does go a lot smoother, but, like, gosh, when you see it in this kinda context, this is crazy. I mean, this is just like a whole team. It's kinda cool to see, though.
Overworked person in the kitchen. Under them is an army of cooks, each with their specific job. Someone in charge of sauces, pastries, the grill, one person who cooks fish, and one who roasts meat. A garde-manger in charge of the pantry, and even the marmiton who was a dishwasher but only of pots and pans. Someone else handled silverware and plates. Now, few restaurants today have as many positions as Escoffier had, mainly because roles like the entremetier who made entremets, who at that point in time it was like a snack between courses, that person would be pretty bored at a modern restaurant. But even
Right.
with a reduced brigade, most restaurants today do follow that general concept that Escoffier had laid out. Even in my kitchen here, Jamie is in charge of the grill and Cersei does sauces. Don't worry, I make them wear hairnets.
Good. No. That's adorable, though. You always need little kitchen helpers like that. It just makes everything better.
Escoffier also popularized the idea of a la carte ordering, or ordering individual dishes off of a menu rather than kind of having a prefix meal that just came out as is. He and Ritz also made it socially acceptable for the ladies of London to go to restaurants, because before that time, at least in the nicer restaurants of the city, it was a man's domain.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I know that there was, like, gentlemen clubs and, like, places where I think it was, like, you probably had to be with a man or something, right? Something like that, but I guess, like, single women dining or, like, not I guess not really single, but, like, solo women dining, I guess, was maybe a little bit, progressive, I guess. I don't know. That is kinda wild to think about, though, because like, when you look at stuff today, like, everybody eats by themselves at some point or have, and it's nothing weird, it's pretty normal, but it is it is kinda interesting to see the history of, like, social etiquettes and stuff like this that and just kind of how far we've come and how we see stuff now, it's, like, totally normal, like, wouldn't even, like, bat an eye at it, right? Like, if you saw, like, a woman at a diner eating by herself, like, that's, like, something, like, so normal, but, like, that was something that was kind of a big deal back then. It is I kinda like seeing that, like, timeline of history and stuff like that, and the way that society has kinda changed.
Time, at least in the nicer restaurants of the city, it was a man's domain. But it makes good business sense, seeing as you just doubled your
Yeah,
customer base.
yeah.
He also began foisting some of the finer French foods onto the English clientele. This included more fresh vegetables than the English were accustomed to, and the standardization of the 5 mother sauces, building on what Anton Carême had done in previous decades. But there was one bridge that was too far for the English, and that was frog legs. They were not about that French amphibian delicacy. But Escoffier, knowing best, made a dish called cuisses de nymphes à l'aurore, or thighs of the dawn nymphs. It was first served at a gathering that included the Prince of Wales, and after everyone found out that they were eating frog's legs just under a fancy new name, they realized they did like them, and they all ordered it again in the future.
Sometimes that's all you need, you just gotta change the name a little bit? Like, hearing frog legs might be a little off-putting, but, like, this French name of, like, nymph thighs or something, like, that sounds way more, alluring, I guess, and probably just sounds better too, so and if you don't know what it is, but it's good, then, like, just go with it. Just go with it.
It's kind of like when I was a little kid and I refused to eat mushrooms, my dad would dry them, then grind them up and put them into like sauces and things, and then I loved them. So maybe he learned it from Escoffier. I don't know. Now, in addition to the Prince of Wales, Escoffier served many of the celebrities of the day, including Sarah Bernhardt, the actress, and the Australian opera singer Nellie Melba. And he loved to kind of collect these celebrities into his social circle, and one way he did so was to name dishes after them. Hundreds of these dishes are in
That's
his
actually really
cookbook,
smart.
though most of them and the celebrities for which they're named have been forgotten. But both Nellie Melba and Peach Melba are still remembered today. She also had a sauce, Melba sauce, named after her, as well as Melba toast. But I find the peaches
I mean, like, she must have been a big deal. Good for her. That's awesome.
Melba sauce named after her, as well as Melba toast. But I find the peaches especially interesting because he has about a dozen different peach recipes named after people in his cookbook, and they're somewhat similar. Pêche l'aiglon, or eaglet peaches, were named after Sarah Bernhardt after she starred in a play called L'Aiglon. And it's basically peach Melba, though instead of a raspberry sauce, it has spun sugar and crystallized violets on top, but then it's served on an eagle that has been carved out of ice. Though originally peach
That sounds very extra. That sounds very fancy. Although it would probably be an honor to be able to have something named after you, whether or not it's forgotten now at the time, I think that's pretty cool. I think it's cool.
served on an eagle that has been carved out of ice. Though originally peach Melba was called Pêche au cygne, or peach with swan, to commemorate Melba's swan entrance in the Wagner opera Lohengrin, and it was placed on an ice sculpture in the shape of a swan.
That is crazy. I love ice sculptures though. That is one thing that I think is always like really cool. I don't know if people think they're tacky anymore, but I think ice sculptures are way cool. I always thought they were really pretty. And the people that make them are incredible. I think that is just an artistry that I am just in awe of.
I guess it was a time before Instagram, and he just kind of assumed that his famous clients wouldn't compare notes and realize that their one-of-a-kind dishes were very, very similar. Now, unfortunately, the glory days at the Savoy Hotel had to come to an end when, in 1897, he, Ritz, and the head waiter all left for personal reasons. Or at least that was what the public was told, and was the story for 80 years. Only recently have documents shown a rather more ignominious reason for their departure. By a resolution passed this morning, you have been dismissed from the service of the hotel for, among other serious reasons, gross negligence and breaches of duty and mismanagement. I am also directed to request that you will be good enough to leave the hotel at once.
Oh, well, that sounds very serious. Oh gosh. Oof.
Personal reasons indeed.
Yeah.
Seems that the trio had been taking kickbacks from suppliers as well as other light embezzlement schemes.
Oh no. Well, it's it's like some things never change.
And they were treating future business partners to like fancy dinners that would not end in an actual bill. And this led to an astounding disappearance of over 3,400 pounds of wine and
Oh my
spirits in the
God.
first 6 months of 1897.
In the first 6 months. Oh gosh. Oh yeah. That is a big problem. That's a big problem.
Though the head waiter claimed that it wasn't nefarious, it had just been drunk by the staff. A rather drunk staff, I'm thinking. But they all admitted their wrongdoing and made restoration, and they were never charged, nor did it ever become public knowledge. And that's good because it allowed Cesar Ritz to go establish the Ritz Hotel in Paris and the Carlton Hotel in London. And with him came Escoffier and all of their distinguished clientele, including Melba, Bernhardt, and the Prince of Wales, as well as his mistress, Lily Langtry. And it was this period, Escoffier's time at the Ritz and the Carlton hotels, that really turned him into a celebrity chef, even having Kaiser Wilhelm II tell him, "I am the Emperor of Germany, but you are the Emperor of Chefs." This, of course, was before
That's great.
World War I, so the compliment carried some weight. It was also during his time at the Ritz that he wrote Le Guide Culinaire, with over 5,000 recipes. And it's still used in many cooking classes to this day, making his claim that throughout my entire career I have sewn some 2,000 cooks all over the world a bit of an understatement. Though the bulk of the recipes are rather brief and definitely written for a professional chef in mind, Case in point, the peach Melba recipe. The one that we use today is actually from a later book that he wrote, but the one that is included in Le Guide Culinaire simply says, poach the skinned peaches in vanilla-flavored syrup. When very cold, arrange them in a timbale on a bed of vanilla ice cream and coat with raspberry puree. Definitely a recipe written for someone who already knows a lot about cooking.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I guess I've never, I guess, seen any, like, professional, I guess, based cookbooks. I'm, like, pretty basic, or I'm like a, you know, I buy the ones that have lots of explanations, so then I know what I'm doing, but I would imagine that that makes a lot of sense of, like, you should know what you're doing for everything if you wanna be, like a if you're doing this as a career or, getting your foot in the door, then I'm assuming that you probably need to know all this, which makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. But it's kinda crazy that, like, you can see this and be like, "Oh, yeah, like, easy peasy," because I feel like my brain does not work like that. Like, even though I might make something a million times, I still feel like I have to look at something, like a recipe or some sort, just to make sure I don't miss anything or mess something up. So, hats off to them for knowing, like, reading this and just being like, "Yep, sure, got it," because that's not me.
And coat with raspberry puree. Definitely a recipe written for someone who already knows a lot about cooking. But next week, we're actually going to talk about a cookbook written around the same time period, but with the amateur home cook in mind. Fanny
That would be
Farmer's The
me.
Boston Cooking School Cookbook. So make sure to watch next Tuesday. But for today, that's all we've got. Honestly, I could go on about Escoffier for a lot longer, but this episode would get to be really, really long, so I'm going to cut it off right there and get back to my peach Melba. So after about an hour, remove the peaches and the raspberry from the refrigerator, cut the peaches in half, and it's time to plate. Now the recipe says to put them in a silver timbale, which can actually mean several things at the time period, including in his book. He has several different references to this, and they're all kind of different, but really it was like a silver cup about that big. You can't see anything in it, so it's actually
Yeah.
not as nice as a glass. So I'm going to use a glass dish. Besides, I don't have a silver timbale. So add vanilla ice cream, then the peaches, then the raspberry sauce, and some almonds if you wish. And here we are.
I think this looks really good. It looks so refreshing and nice, and I would love to eat this during the summer. This seems like a perfect summer dessert after like a barbecue or something like that, or any sort of like light summer meal, and then you have a peach Melba. This seems really, really good.
Escoffier's Peach Melba from 1903. I have to say, just the colors of this dessert
Oh
are
yeah.
just lovely. Just the brightness of the raspberries and the sauce and
I feel like it's such a vibe too. It's like such a summer vibe. It seems perfect. It seems absolutely perfect.
are just lovely. Just the brightness of the raspberries and the sauce and the peaches.
I
It's
want
just
some ice
lovely.
cream
Let's give it a
now.
shot. I can't. That's already melting. Why does ice cream melt so fast? Here we go.
Right? Oh, it's got to be good. Yeah.
Those nuts. There's a little crunch to the nut that is crunch to the nuts. That's really that's really nice. All right, that was bad. I'm gonna have some more here. That the raspberry puree really shines through.
Mm. I would say like that's like vanilla ice cream is probably like one of my like top favorites when it comes to like mixing stuff in them, whether it's like sauces or fruit or other toppings. I feel like if I'm doing that, like making sundaes or some sort, I go for vanilla ice cream.
Puree really shines through.
Oh, it looks so good.
Melted ice cream or no, this is delicious. Perfect for summer.
Yeah.
Is it world changing or innovative? Well, not today, because honestly, I could see this on a menu. I mean, it is still on some menus today, and it hasn't changed all that much. But it may have been new and innovative then, and it's absolutely
True.
wonderful regardless. One more interesting little Escoffier tidbit is that while he was working at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, he had lots of cooks obviously working under him. And according to some sources, one of those cooks was named Van Ba. He had started as a dishwasher and worked his way up to be a pastry chef, or work under the pastry chef. And later on in life, that person would end up becoming the president of Vietnam. But by then, he
Oh.
went by the name Ho Chi Minh. Now, there are some sources that say that he didn't actually work under Escoffier, that he worked at a different hotel at the time, but he was definitely in the area working as a chef during the time period. Just kind of weird that, you can go from dishwashing to president of Vietnam.
That is crazy. What a cool little tidbit, though. I actually love that. That's great. What a cool story.
Never give up on your dreams, kids.
True.
So thank you again to my Patreon patrons, and make sure to follow me on Instagram, Tasting History with Max Miller, and I will see you next time on Tasting History.
I love this video. This was great. It was like such a cool story, and I kind of like that how Escoffier was naming, I guess, dishes and stuff after famous people that he was around. Even if they were similar, I still feel like that's cool. I think I mean I whether or not if I knew like if I had that and if I was similar to somebody else's, I wouldn't care because I'd be like, yo, I got a dish named after me. But this looks absolutely delicious, which is I feel like it's crazy because it's like I've heard of peach Melba, but I've never had it. I had no idea like what exactly it was. So the fact that I got to see it, it looks delicious. It looks so good. I feel like I gotta make myself one now because I feel like we're like peak summer. It's August. It's hot as all hell. So I feel like this would be perfect for around just about now. So I think I might have to go gather some supplies here so I can make my own. This was a great video though. Absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to like and subscribe to Max because he just makes such amazing videos and I just really enjoy all the history in these. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys had a great day and I will see you in the next one.